Oh shit.
Let her go. Let her go. Let her have. Let her have. Let her grab my hand. Let my hand go, bitch.
Hey, break that shit up.
Oh, they just took that girl car.
21-year-old woman shot to death after a fight broke out last night at the Monarch Ridge Apartments.
And many people were outside when this happened, and some even live streamed the fight and the shooting.
What they did to him.
On August 20th, 2024, 21-year-old Asia Alice Poole was gunned down outside the Monarch Ridge apartment complex in Birmingham, Alabama.
Well, I can tell you that witnesses are telling me today that hundreds of shots were fired here last night, and what we're seeing out here in the daylight certainly corroborates that. Take a look at just this one car, a bullet hole here in the trunk, another at the top of the trunk, one through the window, and then one on this other side next to the gas tank. The shooting happened after two women, one reportedly the victim, Asia Poole, got into a fist fight. And then right after that fist fight was broken up, that's when we heard the shots fired. Witnesses described what happened here last night as something like World War III.
The shocking incident, which was live streamed on social media, began as a physical altercation and quickly escalated into a chaotic and deadly shooting. Authorities estimate that approximately 168 rounds were fired in the barrage of gunfire that unfolded. The conflict started with a fight between Poole and 19-year-old Janiyah Hendricks. What may have begun as a personal dispute soon spiraled out of control as more individuals arrived on the scene. The tension exploded into violence, leading to a massive exchange of gunfire. When first responders arrived, Poole was found unresponsive and was pronounced dead at the scene. The investigation remains ongoing as authorities work to determine whether additional individuals were involved. Poole's tragic death is made even more heartbreaking by the fact that she was a devoted mother to a young daughter who had just started kindergarten. Poole may not have realized the danger she was walking into when she confronted Hendricks that day. But what started as a heated argument quickly turned into a deadly ambush. Moments after their fight began, gunmen unleashed a hailstorm of bullets.
No! They just took that girl car.
Capturing the entire incident on multiple Facebook Live videos. At the center of this violent dispute was a love triangle. Poole and Hendricks were reportedly fighting over a man, neither willing to let the other steal him away. The confrontation escalated from a one-on-one brawl to an all-out war as friends and family members joined in. Instead of a simple street fight, the situation turned into a deadly gun battle, leaving one dead and another wounded. But the key questions remain: who fired first? Was this a case of self-defense or was it cold-blooded murder? Before we begin the story, we want to take a moment to extend our heartfelt condolences to the friends, family, and loved ones of Asia Alice Poole. This devastating loss has left an irreplaceable void in the lives of those who knew and cherished her. This tragic case takes us to Birmingham, Alabama, a city with a violent crime rate of 705 in 2023, nearly 3 times the national average. Asia Alice Poole, just 21 years old, had her whole life ahead of her. She was known as a fun, outgoing, and vibrant young woman who loved social media and enjoyed posting videos with her loved ones. Her world revolved around her child, whom she shared with her long-term boyfriend. Sadly, just 1 week before the shooting, the father of her child tragically passed away. Overwhelmed with grief, Poole had been mourning his loss, sharing emotional tributes online. But just days after suffering this devastating loss, Poole found herself entangled in another heartbreaking situation. Her conflict with Janiyah Hendricks over a man turned violent when they agreed to meet up and settle their dispute with a fight. What neither of them expected was that their friends and family would turn the confrontation into a full-scale gunfight, one that would leave Poole dead and another person badly wounded. By the way, we post true crime stories and strange cases. If this interests you, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support means a lot and helps us continue sharing this content. Facebook Live video shows Asia and her friends in the moments leading up to the fight. She was hyped up, full of energy, and ready for the confrontation. While preparing for the highly anticipated brawl, Asia even went live on Facebook, documenting everything leading up to the moment they finally met face to face. As soon as they saw each other, Asia and Janiyah Hendricks lunged at one another, fists flying as they engaged in a heated fight. The two went back and forth, struggling to gain the upper hand. Eventually they were separated, but just moments later chaos erupted. Shots rang out from multiple directions, turning what started as a fist fight into a deadly ambush. Nearly 168 gunshots tore through the scene before police arrived. Officers found Asia lying on the ground with a gunshot wound to her back. She was unresponsive, and despite efforts to save her, she was pronounced dead at the scene. Another individual was also injured in the shooting, suffering a gunshot wound to the leg. He was rushed to the hospital, where he received treatment and ultimately survived. However, the aftermath of the gunfire left the entire area in ruins. Glass shattered, tires blown out, and bullet holes riddling apartment buildings and nearby vehicles. The Birmingham Police Department was stunned by the level of violence and was determined to bring all those involved to justice. Investigators quickly gathered evidence, analyzing multiple videos taken during the altercation to reconstruct exactly what happened. Through these videos, they were able to identify the individuals who had fired the deadly shots. Authorities arrested 3 suspects early on: Justin Hendricks, 20, Taylor McLeod, 22, and a 17-year-old male. Janiyah Hendricks and Justin Hendricks are siblings, and in a shocking twist, investigators discovered that Justin was also linked to an unrelated murder-for-hire shooting that had taken place earlier that same day. Meanwhile, the shooting's lone survivor, Asia's best friend, managed to recover from his injuries and later shared his account of what happened that night.
The room is very small. It's literally so little. Somebody mad about somebody. This ain't theirs. Can't get mad at somebody that's ain't choice. She was like her car getting took on running out after her car to get her car. After they don't run into the car, they was shooting, so I really can't tell who was shooting back.
As the investigation progressed, police arrested 2 more suspects, Akaria Dene Woods, 20, and Janiyah Hendricks, 19, bringing the total to 5 individuals charged in connection with Asia's murder.
Coria Woods was granted a $250,000 bond today. 2 of the men who are also charged in this case have bond denied. So Lisa, in this preliminary hearing, we learned that this situation stemmed from a fight between Asia Poole and one of the suspects, Janiyah Hendricks. Now, the other suspects who traveled to that apartment complex that summer, August night, are claiming self-defense. And their defense attorneys speaking on their behalf in the courtroom this morning that their clients, on behalf of their clients, that someone else in the breezeway where Asia Poole was standing fired first.
Her death left a deep void in the hearts of her loved ones, especially her sister, who struggled to cope with the devastating loss. In a heartbreaking Facebook post, she expressed her overwhelming grief. "I can't believe this, Asia. How you just gonna leave me in real like that? It's always been us 3. From the time you told me you was pregnant. Man, all you did was laugh and lie. I swear my feelings and heart hurt so bad. I'm just waiting for you to call me in the morning, sending me pics of Stank on the way to school. Never wanted for nothing. You made me her godmommy for a reason, and I will stand on all 10 about mine. I love you. Watch over me and Sugar. I just wish we had more time together. I know it was never in you or George's plan to leave Stank so early. Asia was deeply loved and missed by many." In honor of her memory, friends and family gathered for a heartfelt balloon release, paying tribute to a young life lost far too soon. Amid all this tragedy, the one who suffered the most is Asia's 4-year-old daughter. In just 1 week, she lost both her mother and father, a loss no child should ever have to endure. We can only hope that she receives the love, care, and support she needs to navigate life without them, because, no matter what, nothing can ever replace a mother's love. Our heartfelt condolences go out to Asia Poole's family and friends. We sincerely hope that justice is served and that those responsible for her death are held accountable. While the defense attorney argues that this was a case of self-defense and is confident that no one will be convicted of murder, we can only hope that the truth prevails.
It's so torn in so many pieces. I couldn't even see him. They wouldn't laid him to rest. I couldn't even see him.
On February 17, 2022, 20-year-old Nasir Johnson took an Uber to meet his secret lover, 23-year-old Keelan Pratt, at his home in Philadelphia. But instead of another hidden rendezvous, the night ended in tragedy. Pratt shot Johnson in the neck, then drove his body to a remote trail, doused it in gasoline, and set it on fire.
This body was the worst burned body I have ever seen.
Later that day, hikers discovered the burned remains, so badly damaged that DNA was needed for identification. Investigators soon focused on Pratt, uncovering bloodstains, a bleached carpet, and a 9mm handgun in his home. His internet search history revealed chilling terms like traits of a psychopath and killing in cold blood. In the early hours of February 17, 2022, 20-year-old Nasir Johnson stepped into an Uber, unaware he was heading toward his death. His destination, the home of 23-year-old Keelan Pratt, his secret lover, and soon his killer. Nasir Johnson was a bright, ambitious 20-year-old with a contagious smile and a deep passion for helping others. Openly proud of his identity, he dreamed of becoming a psychologist to support those struggling with acceptance. While Keelan Pratt, 21, lived a very different reality. Raised in an environment where love came with conditions, he kept his true self hidden. Nasir was open about their relationship, but Keelan was desperate to keep it hidden. Whether Nasir wanted to go public or end things, something triggered Keelan to take a horrifying step. The moment Nasir walked through his door, Keelan shot him dead. Knowing he couldn't leave the body behind, Keelan wrapped Nasir in cloth, stuffed him in his trunk, and drove to a secluded trail in Fairmount Park. Later that afternoon, 2 hikers made a gruesome discovery: a burned body, unrecognizable and left to rot. DNA analysis revealed the victim's identity, and investigators soon turned their focus to Keelan. He had tried to destroy the evidence, but the truth was about to catch up with him. Because Nasir's body was so badly burned, authorities couldn't immediately identify him, leaving his family in agonizing uncertainty. They had no idea that just hours after stepping into an Uber, their beloved Nasir had been murdered. Days passed without answers, and while his family reported him missing, there was no immediate way to connect their son's disappearance to the charred remains found in Fairmount Park. Then, investigators received an anonymous tip that led them to Keelan Pratt, Nasir's boyfriend. They obtained a warrant for Keelan's phone records, and what they found painted a chilling picture. The data showed that Keelan was with Nasir just before his phone went offline, suggesting he was the last person to see him alive. Even more damning, Keelan's phone was also traced to Fairmount Park, the exact location where the burned body was discovered. As the pieces fell into place, investigators had to face a heartbreaking task: informing Nasir's family. Instead of bringing them good news, they had to ask for a DNA sample to compare against the remains. No parent should ever have to hear those words. The results confirmed their worst fear: the body was Nasir's. Even more devastating, they learned he had been murdered and set on fire just days before his 21st birthday.
Loved ones turning out tonight to remember a man whose charred remains were found near Kelly Drive last month.
Because he didn't deserve what they did to him.
In the wake of his tragic death, Nasir's loved ones came together to celebrate his birthday the way he would have wanted. He was remembered as a bright, joyful soul who spread happiness wherever he went. He had big dreams, hoping to become a psychologist and use his own struggles to help others in the LGBTQ+ community. Instead, his life was cruelly cut short, leaving behind a family shattered by grief and a future that will never be. Once investigators identified Keelan Pratt as a suspect, it didn't take long to build a case against him. He had left a trail of mistakes, each one leading them closer to the truth. His phone records placed him at the crime scene around the time of Nasir Johnson's death, making him their prime suspect. But they needed more solid evidence before they could make an arrest. With a search warrant in hand, investigators combed through Keelan's home, and what they found was chilling. Beneath the carpet padding and on the hardwood floors, they discovered traces of bodily fluid later confirmed to be Nasir's. Someone had attempted to scrub away the evidence, dousing the area with heavy cleaning chemicals, but no amount of bleach could erase the truth. They were still missing one key piece: the murder weapon. Forensic experts had determined Nasir was shot before his body was set on fire, and finding the gun would be crucial. While they didn't locate the 9mm semi-automatic firearm used in the crime, they did find something just as damning: a bullet hole in Keelan's wall with the round still lodged inside. The house itself had become a witness to the crime. Perhaps the most disturbing discovery came from Keelan's own internet history. Investigators uncovered chilling Google searches that suggested his motives went beyond just hiding his sexuality. He had searched for things like traits of a psychopath, having sex with dead bodies, and killing in cold blood. These weren't just random queries, they painted a picture of a man with deeply disturbing thoughts. His crime wasn't impulsive, it was premeditated and rooted in a dangerous mindset. Had he not been caught, it's possible Nasir wouldn't have been his only victim. After months of investigation, police arrested Keelan Pratt on June 21, 2022.
This body was the worst burned body I have ever seen. Makes no mistake about it, this was a hate crime. This is an individual who was killed because he was gay. And because the man who killed him did not want anyone to find out that he was in a relationship with him or that he had sex with other men.
His trial began and the evidence against him was overwhelming. On September 27, 2024, a Philadelphia jury convicted him of first-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, and possession of an instrument of crime. His sentence? Life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 4.5 to 9 years.
We did, Sheba, and it was very emotional. But they do have some closure now that the man who shot and then burned the body of Nasir Johnson will spend the rest of his life in prison. The family also wanted to make clear that Nasir was murdered not only because he was gay, but also because his killer, who he was in a relationship with, could not accept his own sexual identity.
Justice had finally been served, but for Nasir's family, no sentence could ever undo their pain. Prosecutors urged the jury to view Nasir Johnson's murder as a hate crime. His identity made him a target. Keelan Pratt killed Nasir not out of passion, but out of fear of their relationship being exposed. Nasir's death shattered his family. Losing a loved one is painful, but losing someone in such a brutal, senseless way leaves a wound that never fully heals. The grief is mixed with anger, knowing Nasir's life was taken simply because of who he was and who he loved. His family believes that if Keelan had grown up in an accepting environment, like Nasir had, this tragedy might never have happened.
Sometimes I just force myself to go to sleep, but my heart is so torn in so many pieces. I couldn't even see him. They wouldn't laid him to rest. I couldn't even see him. He didn't deserve that. And for you to burn his body so we couldn't see him is no amount of forgiveness.
For the LGBTQ+ community, Nasir's death is a harsh reminder that living authentically can still be dangerous. It highlights the fear many queer people, especially Black queer men, face in communities where acceptance is rare. Yet tragedies like this often ignite change. Activists and allies are using Nasir's story to push for acceptance, safety, and better protections for LGBTQ+ individuals.
We must recognize that this violence isn't random. It is a reflection of deeply rooted, internalized homophobia, queerphobia, and transphobia that impacts all of our communities.
His death is more than just a heartbreaking loss. It's a call to action for a world where no one has to hide who they are. Though no verdict could bring Nasir back, the conviction of Keelan Pratt offered his family a small sense of justice. His story serves as both a warning and a symbol of why the fight for equality is far from over. The case of Keelan Pratt and Nasir Johnson is a tragic story of love, secrecy, and betrayal. It shows how fear and shame can turn deadly, but also serves as a reminder that no secret is worth a life. The truth, no matter how deeply buried, always finds a way to rise. Our deepest sympathies go out to Nasir's family and friends.
It is alarming that the amount of people that were present and did not intervene in the fight to, keep the situation from happening. It is sad.
A lot of people are afraid to get out and talk. A lot of people are afraid to get involved and do etc. because they are afraid of the youth now and with all the gun violence.
Sometimes I just force myself to go to sleep, but my heart is so torn in so many pieces. I couldn't even see him. They wouldn't laid him to rest. I couldn't even see him.
We must recognize that this violence isn't random. It is a reflection of deeply rooted, internalized homophobia, queerphobia, and transphobia that impacts all of our communities.
He didn't deserve that. And for you to burn his body so we couldn't see him is no amount of forgiveness.
Thank you for watching another video of Truth and Crimes. Share your thoughts about this heartbreaking case in the comments below. We value your input. We dedicate ourselves to delivering accurate and compelling true crime stories using information from reliable sources. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you soon with another captivating story.